Hello, my friends. Again, I say welcome to the SosoBone Media Network. And again, I'm going to keep bringing you up to date at this time on the progress we are making on our network. We launched the SosoBone Media Network in 2021, and we have developed quite a few channels and followers on our platform. But we launched the SosoFat television channel in September of 2024. And here it is, January of 2025. And I'd like to thank our viewers, our listeners, and those who have supported us so much. Because in 14 months, we have over 66,000 subscribers, which is more than 1,000 subscribers per week. And we have over 40 million views in 1 year and 2 months on the SosoFat television channel. And I owe it all to you, our viewers, our supporters, and our followers. And this afternoon, we're going to continue what you have embraced, bringing value, historical value, to your attention, for those who have been serving our community in ways that are priceless. And I'm going to kick it over to our host of this program, Secretary to the Cricket Hall of Fame, Dale Brown. Thank you, Dale, and over to you.
I thank you very much, Sir Trevor, and greetings to all our viewers and those who are here for the first time and those who are returning. We will continue our legacy series tonight, and we are honored to welcome Major Karl Chambers, retired from the Jamaica Defence Force, and now a more than respected leader within the Jamaican diaspora. Through his leadership of the Atlanta-based Integrity Children's Foundation, Major Chambers has been instrumental in advancing educational development for children across Jamaica. Not only Jamaica, but we'll focus on the Jamaica part of it, with a special focus on those who are from under-resourced areas within Jamaica, those communities. And, so we'll find a lot of basic schools. So I will say this: if ever the name of a non-profit organization could reflect the character of the leading or the founder of that foundation or the driver to that foundation, it would be integrity.
Yes.
Integrity Children's Fund reflects Major Chambers' character. The main thing about his character is his integrity.
Yes.
And for that reason, it gives me more than greatest of all pleasures to welcome you, Major Karl Chambers.
Thank you so much, Professor and Dale. I truly am honored and humbled to join you today, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. Indeed, I am a son of the soil from Jamaica, living in Atlanta, but my heart is in fact at home in Jamaica, where the needs are so great. But I'm happy to be here with you all.
I thank you very much, sir, and we will go right to it, because what interests me is that with your strong focus on basic schools and the younger generation, I say something must have happened to you early in your life that allows you to focus on these basic schools. But before we ask you the reason why, tell us your own basic school that you came from and your primary school.
Okay, so my early childhood education started at a place called Bernard Lodge Primary. And my father worked in the sugar industry for many years as I grew up. And I first lived at Rose Hall Estate in St. James. And then we moved to Bowden Estate in St. Thomas. and then moved to Bernard Lodge Estate in St. Catherine when I started school. So my basic school was Bernard Lodge Primary. And I went to the infant school there. And then we moved back to Rose Hall, where I attended Mount Alvernia Prep. And that's a Catholic prep school in Montego Bay. So that's my early childhood and primary education journey.
Okay, so with those different schools, how did those early experiences influence you?
Great question. And, you alluded to my early childhood education and what impacted me early in my life that has caused me to focus on the early childhood education now. So Integrity Children's Fund is focused on eliminating teenage illiteracy. We support a school in Kingston, in Western Kingston, that educates illiterate teenagers. And we've realized that in order to prevent a child getting to a preteen or teenage years, so that they're not illiterate, they have to start learning early. Education starts at the preschool, at that basic school level. And so we have had an emphasis on supporting basic schools. So that's one reason why we focus on the basic schools. We're trying to get children, by the time they get to primary school age, which is like 6, they ought to be able to read and understand numeracy and even start writing. And so, if the child can start their education early, then it means that they will not be an illiterate teenager. Now, my own experience is an interesting one, and that is I wrestled in my early childhood education to read. I, in fact, didn't learn to read till I was age 10. And I suffered with dyslexia. And my brain found it very difficult to process letters. And, my brain wrestled with the concept of letters, it overcompensated with the concept of numbers. And so I excelled with math. And math has always been my strength. To explain this, let me just say something else. We take it for granted when a child is taught a rule which says that a vowel can be in a word, and sometimes it can have a short sound, sometimes it can have a long sound, and sometimes it's silent. Well, my brain at 8 and 9 years old could not come to grips with that. Why should a letter be in a word if it has no sound? Then it has no purpose. You see? And for some children, they accept that readily. And we spell color C-O-L-O-U-R in Jamaica, and the U is silent. But my brain had a blockage where that was concerned. And so I wrestled with those kind of rules and concepts, because to my mind, they were absolutely illogical. My mother, and I owe a great deal to her, she realized that math alone would not take me through life. And so she moved me from the government primary school system to a private prep school, Mount Alvernia Prep, which is a Catholic school, at great cost, because we had to pay school fees, and school fees are always expensive. And in the 60s, I attended Mount Alvernia, And I will never forget, there was a nun, her name was Sister St. Thomas. She was the principal of Mount Alvernia Prep in Montego Bay. And she would spend hours with me, day after day, programming my brain to accept something that was illogical.
What was your name, Karl?
Her name?
Yes.
Her name was Sister St. Thomas.
Sister St. Thomas.
Sister St. Thomas. I'll never forget her.
I want
One of the most impactful persons in my life.
I want her name to be embedded in this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she would spend hours with me. And she literally had to program my brain to accept, but as I said, things that I found illogical.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it worked. And I came to grips with letters. And in fact, when I did common entrance, I failed the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I failed because I couldn't write a composition. You know, I could do the math, but I couldn't write a composition. I wrestled with that. And so for me, I have a soft spot for children learning to read. And some of the children that we support now, and these are illiterate teenagers in Trenchtown, they are unable to read, not because they are not smart, not because they lack any intellect, but some of them are dyslexic, you know, and they need special care and attention in a one-to-one setting to be able to master this thing called letters and the English language. You know, I sometimes I marvel because I have gone on to, you know, I did O-levels. I got an academic prize at Excelsior for my O-level results, you know, with distinction in mathematics. I got a distinction in A-level physics. I went on to do engineering degree in the Army and software engineering and graduated with honors. And so I've excelled academically once I was able to master the English language and overcome concepts which today I still believe are absolutely illogical. But my mind had to be trained. And so this is why, for me, my passion is to help children, help them to overcome their learning disabilities and to give them an opportunity to excel and be successful in life.
You know, you have touched on something that we have encountered on this series before. When I asked a question relative to the presence, for example, of school counselors.
Yeah.
You know, or the absence of school counselors. Okay. And the fact that so many of our kids, you know, would just never move forward. So I am concerned about the fact that a small percentage of students in a primary school pass the scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
So a very small percentage pass the scholarship, and they accept it as normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
understand.
Yeah. So you mentioned Excelsior.
Yes.
But you also mentioned Mount Alvernia Prep and Montego Bay. How did you end up at Excelsior?
Right. So my family moved around a lot. As I said, my father worked in the sugar industry. So he worked at several sugar estates. And I grew up on a sugar estate, which is an amazing life. I truly enjoyed every moment that I lived on a sugar estate, because as a little boy, it meant I was out on bulldozers, plowing cane fields and driving tractors and riding donkeys and mules and horses. You know, sugar estate life was really fun and rewarding. My family moved to Kingston. My mother's job transferred her to Kingston, and so we moved, and I ended up going to Excelsior High School. I first started out at Excelsior Extension. Now, Mr. Powell, an amazing educator, who Sister St. Thomas was one educator who impacted me. The other one was Mr. Powell.
Yes.
And my mother insisted that I should go to his school because he was a brilliant man and a brilliant educator. And Mr. Powell was the one who came up with the concept of education from cradle to grave.
Yes.
And at Excelsior, he not only founded Excelsior, but he started this complete cycle of education. They had a basic school, a primary school, a high school, and then what's called a community college. He was the one who came up with the concept of community colleges.
Yes.
And then which is and in fact at Excelsior, that is now a degree granting institution.
Right.
So I started at the extension, and which was an afternoon school. So I went to school at 2 p.m. in the days. And that was because I did not pass common entrance. So I didn't qualify to become a day student. But my mother, once again, was inspirational. I saw the sacrifices that she made because the extension school was also a private school. So she had to be paying school fees. And I made a conscious decision at about age 12 that I was going to reward my mother with academic excellence. So having conquered reading through her help and spending a lot of money to get me to master reading, I developed a regimen where I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the mornings and I would study. And I studied more than everyone else in my class. And my hard work paid off.
Good.
And every term, I saw, it brought me joy to see the pride in my mother's eyes when I brought home an outstanding report card. Maths was always easy, getting 100 in maths was standard, because my brain was wired to do maths. And by the time I got to the end of third form, I had brought home the best report card that I'd ever produced. And my mother, once again, very instrumental in my life, said to me, she made an appointment to go and see Mr. Powell to ask him if he would consider transferring me to the day school of Excelsior. Now, I knew that that was not the policy of the school, but I went along and we met with Mr. Powell, first day of school in September 1983, went to his office, and he told us that. He says it's not the school's policy and the transfer would not be granted. So we got up to leave, I'm rather disappointed. And he looked down at my report card, and I'll never forget what he said. He looked up and he said, "Stop." And so we stopped and looked at him. And he said, "If you can produce a report card like this, I will make an exception." And that day, I became a day student. He transferred me immediately.
Yeah.
And I started my career as a day student at Excelsior. That was the beginning of fourth form. That was a significant relief for my mother because it meant that she didn't have to pay school fees anymore. But it also allowed me to do a subject called AdMaths, which I wanted to do, which the day school did. And so it allowed me to explore mathematics to a higher level.
Yes.
And of course, and then at the end of fourth form, I had another brilliant year. I was able to represent the school in field hockey. And at the end of fourth form, I was selected as a prefect, as a host captain for the next year, and as a deputy head boy for the school.
Okay.
So that for me was more success. And once again, I saw the pride in my mother's eyes. And then I went on to O-levels and excelled at O-levels, one of 13 students to be awarded an academic prize for O-level results. And then went on to do A-levels, and as I said before, ended up with a distinction in A-level physics. So for me, Excelsior and Mr. Powell was a man who gave me a second chance. He gave me two second chances. First one was allowing me to attend a high school, the extension, and then allowing me to transfer to the day school. So his example of being able to give me a second chance has allowed me to now give other kids a second chance.
Yes.
This is fascinating, Professor. Very fascinating. And your mother's name, you didn't mention your mother's name.
She's Phyllis Chambers. You know, she was Phyllis Clark from Westmoreland. You know, she's from the McIntosh family. But an amazing woman. You know, she was a quiet but strong leader. You know, and what I appreciate about her was that she refused to see me fail and provided the opportunities and the help that I needed to get me to where I needed to be.
I get the impression you're an only child.
No, I'm not. I'm the young. There were two children, so I have an older sister.
Okay.
But I'm the only son, and you know, but I was very close to my mother, and you know, it's parenting is I say to my kids, and I have adult kids and I have grandchildren, and I've told them that that's the most difficult job you'll ever do as a human, and that is to parent a child, but it's the most rewarding as well.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Major, you enjoyed a very distinguished career with the Jamaica Defence Force. So, how did that experience help you? We know you had a strong character, but in terms of leadership style, and commitment to service, how did that help to shape you? Because you are known for that also.
Sure. Good question. So, you know, leadership is one of my favorite topics, apart from mathematics. And, you know, the essence of leadership is really influence and character. You know, I learned leadership from my mother, you know, in a big way. You know, she didn't have a big title, but she was a visionary and she knew how to influence us. When I went to Excelsior, I joined the cadet unit at Excelsior and served in the cadets. I was influenced to join the Jamaica Defence Force, or inspired, I should say, because my grandfather on my father's side is from South St. James, in a place called Seaford Town, Cambridge, that area. And he joined the British Army as a teenager and went and fought in the Boer War in South Africa. And he has, none of his children joined and are served in any military unit, but he has several grandchildren who did. And I think we're all inspired by him and his military service. So for me, joining the Jamaica Defence Force was right after high school, was a choice I made, inspired by my grandfather. But also I saw the opportunity in the Jamaica Defence Force, not just to be an officer and serve the country, but also to gain higher education. And so I was able to serve. I did my officer training with the Royal Marines. I did commander training in England for a year, came back, served as an infantry officer, and then went back to England to a military university to study software engineering. So I became a software engineer. And my last 9 years in the Jamaica Defence Force, I was a CIO for the Jamaica Defence Force, with responsibility for computerizing the force at the time. This was in the 90s, and writing software and developing software and systems, which was very rewarding. So I had the best of both worlds. You know, I could be a soldier, but I could also be a very technical person. and of course, leadership, leading and interacting with both persons reporting to me and also, influencing my senior officers. So my career in the JDF was very rewarding, and I would not have traded for anything.
Okay. We're gonna shift back over, as you mentioned before, the Integrity Children's Fund, and if you could tell us a little bit about the funding module that you use.
Sure. So Integrity Children's Fund was started about 24 years ago to support a school in Trenchtown. And I mentioned the school earlier. It's Operation Restoration Christian School. This is a school that caters to preteens and teenagers who are functionally illiterate. And the children who attend this school, mostly boys, come from Trenchtown and adjoining communities, Rima, Jungle. And, these are boys who 9 out of 10 times don't have a father in their lives. They most likely live with a grandmother in a small, maybe a one-bedroom house, and they're functionally illiterate. Now, if they get to age 13 and they can't read, they're going to end up in a gang. They're going to end up being a gunman.
Yes, it's over.
Yeah, and they're going to end up doing two things. They're going to start killing people, and they're going to most likely lose their lives before they're 20. So this school is a beacon of hope, and so we support that school, and it's amazing to see the transformation in the young boys who at age 11, 12 learning to read and finding hope that they can become productive in their lives. They can learn and go on to learn a trade or obtain a job and become a productive person. So we have been raising funds to support that school, and of course, as I told you before, in order to prevent a child from becoming a preteen or teenager that's illiterate, we teach them to read and write from when they're in the basic school level. So we have raised funds in the United States through various means. I would say 80% of our funds comes from grassroots fundraising, from persons, from individuals who mostly Jamaicans who want to give back to the country, but want to invest their money in an organization that they believe in, and an organization that will spend the funds in for the purpose for which it was given. Very important concept. And so, it's not a mistake why we named the organization Integrity, because that's who we are, that's our values. And so we raise funds. None of us on our board are who work in the organization. We have up to 100 volunteers who help us to plan events and raise funds. None of us are paid. We all have our own jobs. So we can give more than 90% of the funds that we raise to Jamaica. And so we send US dollars to Jamaica, to the schools, and we pay teachers salaries. So we're sending foreign exchange into the country to cover the needs of the schools. If the schools that we support, they feed the children as well. So we build a kitchen, we'll equip the kitchen with stoves and so on, and all of that, or we will do construction. We will build classrooms, and so we're making a positive impact, not just to the school but to the community, by providing funds to be able to that those funds are spent in the community. So grassroots funding, very important, and as I said, most of our donors come from just the common man who wants to give. We also raise funds through corporations, and we do have some corporate donors who will give to us, and of course we do events. We do a Christmas concert every year in Atlanta, which I call it the pantomime in Atlanta, and it's a very hilarious, funny event. This last December, I think we had, well over 300 guests who participated. And then in the summertime, we have a gala. And next May 16th in Atlanta, we'll have a gala, which is a black tie affair. And last year, we had Jamaica's newly appointed ambassador at the time, Major General Tony Anderson, who came, and he was a guest speaker. So through events and grassroots fundraising.
Let me comment to an extent that just so our listeners and our viewers understand that you don't have to be well off, well financed to really start and build an organization, because if my memory still is with me, I first became knowledgeable of your operation when you had the biggest backyard party up in your
That is true. 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 Yeah, when I retired from the Jamaica Defence Force after 20 years, my family moved to Atlanta, and we started the Integrity Children's Fund, and we simply just networked with our friends. And one of the events that we started out with was a summer picnic barbecue in the park. And we just invited all the friends we knew. And we had maybe about 20. And after a while, we had a couple of hundred people who just turn up at the park. And we would barbecue, and we would play dominoes and have fun and just interact and have fellowship.
Yes.
And so, that helped us in the organization, because we had a base of folks who knew us and knew what we're doing. Yes. So you're right. That was part of the genesis.
Yes.
Right. So, Major, in practical terms, what type of support specific do you provide to these schools?
So our support is primarily financial. And I want to say this. Now, we don't own the schools. We don't operate the schools. The schools are located in Jamaica. We do support a school here in Atlanta, by the way, in Clarkston. But the schools that we support in Jamaica they have their own board. They have their own governance structure. What we do is provide funding for them to operate. And primarily, we provide funding to pay teachers' salary.
Okay.
Because if you don't have teachers, you won't have a school.
Right.
And you need to be able to not only attract the best teachers, but retain the teachers. So for us, if we can relieve the principal and the board of a school of the burden of paying teachers' salary, then we are making their lives a lot easier and their task a lot easier.
Yes.
So teachers' salary, that's the first and primary funding that we provide. We also provide funding for infrastructure. We provide funding to build classrooms. Here's an example. During COVID, one of the schools that we support in Trenchtown, and we support 2 schools in Trenchtown, was shut and closed by the government because they did not have enough restroom facilities. And so we raised funds. We had a cycling event, and we got some cyclists together. We needed $10,000. We raised it about $12,000, and we used that to build a bathroom at the school. And that project took a few weeks, and we built the bathroom, completed it. The government came, did their inspection, and the school was able to open. So construction, facilities, we do provide that. We in the past have provided water tanks for schools, because what we found is that if there's a power outage in Jamaica, usually the water goes as well because the pump can't work. Or due to water lock-offs, the schools can't open. Yes. So we would have provided large, 10,000 gallon water tanks, and we pay fully for those, and pay for the construction and the installation of those, so that the schools can remain open.
I'm glad you said large water tanks, because I heard one time that someone stole the tank off the put up a school. I think it was in
Yeah, I can understand that. I can understand that. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Uh,
And in recent times, Hurricane Melissa, which destroyed Western Jamaica, and I don't know if you have been there, but it's sad. One of the schools that we support is in fact in Trelawney, just outside of Falmouth, a place called Salt Marsh. And Salt Marsh community is a little fishing village, and if you're driving 60 miles an hour, you'll probably fly past it and don't even realize that you passed Salt Marsh. But it's a sleepy fishing village with a few craftsmen and some fishermen. But there's a school in that little village called Jacob's Well Basic School. And for the last 15 years, we have been supporting it.
Okay.
And when Hurricane Melissa was exiting Jamaica, the eye passed through Salt Marsh.
Oh my.
And 5 feet of water went through the school and destroyed the inside of the school. And the principal's office, which was a board structure, just disappeared. It went. So we responded, and I really want to say thank you to our donor community. We established within 24 hours after the hurricane had passed, and we realized the damage and the destruction. We created a campaign to raise funds to help the school to reopen, because the school had to shut down. And the first day we raised about $2,000, and eventually raised almost $30,000.
Okay.
And with those funds, we immediately provided food for the school and for the teachers and the community. And we contracted a restaurant in Kingston to prepare hot meals and take them to Montego, to Salt Marsh.
Wow.
And because we weren't sure what was open and what was available, but we knew Kingston was functional.
Yes.
And then we employed and paid contractors from the community to rebuild the principal's office. And so we had some tradesmen who started working. And then we brought a team from America there's an organization called ATL Vets. These are US military vets who came, plus other Jamaicans. And we cleaned out the school. And then we rebuilt the school and the damaged areas. And last week, Monday, the 5th of January, the school reopened.
Okay.
And I was fortunate to have been there to see the opening of the school, see the children come back out, because it was closed for 2 months. Now, the issue here is that, unfortunately, 85% of Jamaican children are born out of wedlock. And I say it's unfortunate because it means that 85% of children at the school are in a single parent home.
Right.
Most likely just a mother. And there's a missing father. And that's a problem that the Jamaican society has. Now, these parents or these mothers need the school as a safe sanctuary for them to have their children on a daily basis.
Yes.
So that they can go to work.
Yes.
So that they can generate an income for their family. And if the school is closed, then they have a problem. Where do they leave the kid? Who do you leave the child with? And so we were at a great degree of urgency to ensure that the school could reopen quickly, and which it did. And so, I met with a parent there last Monday, and she lives in Montego Bay, and she teaches at William Knibb High School in Falmouth. And she takes her child there every day. In fact, the school has a school bus, goes to her workplace, picks up her child, takes the child to school, and at the end of the school day, takes her child back to her at her workplace. And so this school is a sanctuary for her.
Yes.
So we needed to get the school open so that not just for the child's sake, but also for those mothers.
and the details, you know, those details, that's what's gonna drive our diaspora.
Yeah.
Okay, because most of the time when we're listening to an Hurricane Melissa update, I am getting it from Parliament. I'm getting it from Mackenzie and Vaz and Green. Okay, and whether you like it or not, there's always a conflict because everything that passes through them is political, even if they swear it's not, or even if it is not. Even if it is not, it is still interpreted as political. So when we can look at something that is done in a non-partisan manner by an organization from start to finish, that is where a lot of the confidence in the diaspora resides.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I agree. Now, you know, that campaign that we started, we call it Operation Talawa. You know, and you know, Talawa is a strong Jamaican word. You know, we
little Talawa.
Yes, and so we treated that school in Saltmarsh, Jacobswell Primary School, basic school, which is also a part of a church because it's co-located with a church called Jacobswell Church. So I saw an amazing model at work, and I've seen it for years, but I particularly saw it here during the hurricane and the aftermath of the hurricane, that it was truly a community effort. The church community rallied, the pastor, the workmen who we brought on to start the construction and do the construction were members of the church.
Okay.
But that church community is not just a church, but also the school. It's a beacon of hope for that community, and they're spreading the gospel of Jesus. And so that's an amazing model. And going forward with our Operation Talawa, we now want to move to other schools in Western Jamaica, but we're focused on basic schools. All right, the schools that cater to 2 to 6 year olds, and basic schools, because basic schools are private schools. They are typically church-connected schools or community-based schools.
Yes.
And what's important is that they don't get funding, or if they get funding from the government, it's very minuscule. So they have to fend for themselves.
Yes.
You know, they charge school fees, and they have to then go and raise funds. So that's what we're focused on, and especially schools that are provide a greater outreach to the community if they're connected with a church. So right now we're doing a survey of schools that are impacted, and we have a plan to raise funds and then go to other schools, get them repaired, get them open, and then eventually we're going to start building schools like that in communities where there are no such schools.
Okay, Major, Book Buddies program.
Yes. Excellent. So Book Buddies program is a program that we have put together, that was headed by my wife, and is headed by my wife. Now, Book Buddies program started here in Atlanta. You know, there's a community in Atlanta called Clarkston. Clarkston, Georgia is probably the most diverse, racially diverse community in all of America. It is the community in Georgia where refugees from across the world settle. And that community, if you go there, you're going to see almost every nationality across this globe. Now, there's a school in that community, elementary school, that caters to children in that community. And that school has a particular problem in that the children attending that school, and there are several hundred, maybe 400, 500, 600 children. Generally, their reading scores are below where they should be. And they do a very formal Lexile score. And the reason why the children struggle to read is because at home they don't speak English.
Right.
Their parents' primary language is not English.
Yes.
So the parent can't speak English and can't read English. So there's no help from home. And so they come to school and they're struggling. So the Book Buddies program is an answer to that. And, my wife came up with the concept of, she got professionals from the company that she worked for, a very large telecommunications company. And she paired these children with a book buddy, through a Zoom session like this. And that child, and we paid for a library of electronic books, would bring up a book on the Zoom session and would then read the book.
Right.
And the book is based on the child's reading level.
Right.
And so there's an adult sitting with the child over Zoom, and the child is reading. And so the adult will help the child to understand what the child is reading, the concepts, have discussions about words, and coach the child. And what we have found is that 80% of the children who go through the Book Buddies program increase their reading lexile scores.
Right.
Within months. Highly successful program. And in fact, we have a little guy, his name is Mohammed. And when he came on the program, could hardly read. And he sat with his book buddy for about a couple of years. And eventually that kid became so proficient at reading that he became the spelling bee champion at the school.
Okay.
And then went on to do spelling bee in the DeKalb County and came third.
Okay.
So, so those are the remarkable results that we have been having with the Book Buddies program.
Very
But
nice.
it's specifically designed for Clarkston and for that community.
Okay. Major, you didn't really mention some of the schools in Jamaica, so I'd like to highlight them. And I love the name Jacob's Well, by the way. I think it's so appropriate. But if you could tell us a little, just
Sure.
quickly, Joy Town Learning Center to begin with.
Yes, that's an interesting name. So Joy Town Learning Center is a basic school in Trenchtown, and it's located immediately in front of the police station in Trenchtown. So it's in the heart of Trenchtown, and that caters to 2 to 6 year olds that live not just in Trenchtown but in the adjoining communities. And it was named Joy Town because years ago, probably about maybe 40 years ago, the church that the school is associated with didn't like the word trench, and they wanted another name for the community, so they called it Joy. So instead of saying Trench Town, it became Joy Town. So we support that school, Joy Town, and it's associated with a church called Covenant Community Church. So it's a ministry of the church.
Okay.
And we have educated hundreds of children over the last 20 years going through that school. Then we also support a school in Waterhouse called Maranatha. And, Waterhouse is another troubled community at times. And this school is a beacon of hope again. And this school is a church school located with a church called Maranatha Church in Waterhouse. And they have, well over 100 children attending that school. And once again, that school is another beacon of hope.
Good.
And of course, the third school I mentioned is the Jacob's Well Church in Trelawney.
Well, you speak of a beacon of hope, and believe you me, that spark that many people refer to, that spark of light. Ye are the light of the world. And
Yes.
I believe, sir, based on your focus on the basic schools, which reflects the Christian upbringing that you yourself had. So
Right.
I will have to say part of that beacon of light has to be you.
Well, thanks for the compliment. My own personal life, I'm a believer in Jesus. I you know, I'm motivated by the scriptures, and I'm guided by the scriptures. And, you know, the Lord Jesus, you know, command us or commend us to be, you know, to be salt in this earth and to let our light shine. So for me, my involvement in Integrity Children's Fund is also part of my what I consider my Christian calling and my service to my fellow humans.
Yes, Professor, I will let
yes,
you.
In the interest of time, I would like also for you to give out your website information and
Yes.
where they can go and make a donation on your donation button.
Sure. Right. And our website is simple. It's our name, Integrity Children's with an S fund.org. So it's a long word, our long name. It says www.integritychildren's with an S fund.org.
Okay.
Or if you go to any search engine, you know, Google, just type in Integrity Children's Fund and it will pop up. It will most likely be the first one. And that website is updated, and you'll see information about our Operation Talawa. You'll see pictures of the Jacob's Well. We have a lot of photographs there of the work team and the students. You know, let me tell you a little example. And sorry, you know, this excites me, but I got some pictures today.
Okay.
When we went to Jamaica in early December, there was a company here in Atlanta that donated 250 cots, and these are military style cots, but they are but we got some for children, and we sent them to Jamaica, and we donated some to Jacob's Well. And you know, today the headmistress of the school sent me pictures of the children because they have sleep time. You know, these are little kids, so they have to sleep.
Yes.
And instead of them sleeping on the ground on a mat, they're now sleeping on a cot.
Okay.
And you know, tremendous how that is, that the child doesn't have to. You're not teaching the child that they need to sleep on the floor, but they can sleep on a bed, on a cot. And I saw the picture, and it was so gratifying to see that. But once again, one of our corporate sponsors who gave us these cots, and we put it to good use.
And what is the name of your corporate sponsor?
So yeah, there are tent beds, they're called, and this is a South African company with an office here in Atlanta. The beds are actually made in South Africa, but they're sold here in the United States.
Could you repeat the name of your sponsor, please?
Tent beds.
Tent beds.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let me say thank you so much for spending this time with our community. Your example, I hope, will be replicated because there are many organizations out there looking for leadership. And when I say leadership, out of the box leadership. I think you are the only organization I can clearly identify as doing some of the things that you're doing from beginning to end. Okay? And for that, I give you thanks. This is not the last time you're going to be on this program. I can guarantee that.
Thank you.
So thank you for spending the time with our community, for sharing what we do and being a part of our historical reckoning and rendition, okay, of what we do in our community. We have so many people we have lost, and we have never had a chance to put it down as a part of our history,
Right.
and that will stop, and that has stopped. So thank you so much for what you do, Karl. And I say we look forward to you coming back as we progress and sharing some of your insights and your experience with our community. Thank you so much.
And I appreciate you taking the time to have me on your program and to talk to your audience. Certainly enjoyed our interaction and this talk. And wish you all guys all the success and all the best in the future. And look forward to coming back. Thank you so much.
Thank you.